The movie begins in the middle of a lake, where Kevin suddenly appears on the surface and swims out. It quickly becomes clear that he is not from this reality. He walks along the road and activates a bracelet that allows him to travel to another world. He is desperate to find his wife. All of this started more than 10 years ago, when Kevin lost his job at a bank. He went to a bar to drink and forget, and there he met Molly. She was talking to him on a dare from her friends. At first, it seemed like a prank, but they quickly connected and started going out together. Eventually, they got married and had a child. Later on, the couple lost their son, which put enormous pressure on their marriage. Kevin became trapped in an office job he hated, while Molly started drinking heavily. One day, Kevin's boss grew tired of his behavior, told him to take the rest of the day off, and hinted that he might be fired soon. After that, Kevin got stuck in traffic and called Molly, but the call ended in yet another argument. While he was distracted, another car crashed into Kevin's car, and he lost consciousness. Moments later, Kevin woke up to see people running around his burning car, and a strange man approaching him and speaking to him. Kevin then passed out again. A short while later, he woke up in an alley, with the same man staring at him. The man introduced himself as the benefactor. Kevin heard a loud ringing in his ears, and when he tried to stand, he was extremely dizzy and almost collapsed, on the verge of passing out again. The benefactor punched him to wake him up and told him he had a job offer for him, adding that Kevin would soon be unemployed. Kevin was shocked and tried to leave, but he found the street completely empty, with no one around. He thought about calling the police, but the benefactor told him that it would not help, and that this was not the first time they had done this. Eventually, Kevin caused a scene and shoved the benefactor against the wall, demanding to know where everyone had gone. The benefactor told him that Kevin was the one who had moved. Kevin was then dragged into a restaurant, where everyone inside, including the owner and the waitress Tina, was terrified of the benefactor. At that moment, Kevin realized that the benefactor was the devil. When Tina brought the food, the benefactor forced her to sit beside him while threatening her with a knife. He then explained that every choice people make creates multiple different realities, and that they could have chosen something else. He revealed that his power is transforming people, meaning he sends them to different worlds. In Kevin's case, he brought him to this place, and in return, he sent Molly a husband who truly cares about her. Molly herself was also sent to another reality after Kevin gave her a special necklace. Kevin refused to believe any of this and demanded proof. The benefactor then used the bracelet to send Tina to another dimension, terrifying her family, while Kevin stood there in shock. The benefactor insisted again that he had a job offer for Kevin, to become a manager of a reality, and carry out the devil's work. He explained that he travels between worlds and wants Kevin to be one of them. He told Kevin that the real Kevin is actually from another reality, and that they all agreed to this deal. In those worlds, they have everything they want in life, but first they had to sell their souls. The benefactor even offered to bring Molly back to Kevin. Kevin responded by praying. At first, the benefactor laughed and said that God does not care about him at all, but eventually, he became angry at being ignored and disappeared. Kevin was left confused and lost. He apologized to Tina's family and went out into the street, where he began to learn more about this reality. This version of society lives under a dictatorship, with officers wearing futuristic armor and controlling the streets. When some police officers spotted Kevin, they panicked and chased him. As time passed, Kevin had no choice but to adapt to this new society and learn about its history, the wars, and the hatred that had taken over, to the point where the world was close to being destroyed. One day, the Transformers appeared, secretly working to eliminate anyone they considered a problem, including politicians, priests, and soldiers. Millions of people disappeared, and peace returned once again, until the benefactor also returned to this world. The few remaining leaders handed power over to him. The world was left without hope or faith, and religion was declared illegal. 5 years passed since Kevin was brought to this world. He was constantly sick and became known as Kevin the Reject. He used a fake name to work at a construction company, and his only friend was Gabriel, who knew the entire truth about Kevin. Kevin would write any Bible verses that came to his mind on a typewriter and secretly distribute them through Gabriel as a form of rebellion against the law banning prayer. In his free time, Kevin tried to help as many people as possible, hoping to improve the hopeless world he was living in. Most of this world had been destroyed by war, most people were poor, and the benefactor's secret police ruled the streets with extreme violence. Kevin, who remained kind at heart, wandered through the city and noticed small, beautiful moments that reminded him of Molly and helped him hold on to his faith in God. Unfortunately, these memories sometimes turned into nightmares, showing him that he keeps losing Molly and his son over and over again. Kevin also enjoyed going to the theater to experience something called alternative vision, a live broadcast that shows scenes from what are known as alternate realities. The theater owner, Russo, had been searching for his lost cat for 4 years. Kevin would sit in a chair in front of the screen, using a remote control that allowed him to change the reality he was watching. His main goal was to discover where the benefactor had sent Molly, but most of the time, he only saw other dark and disturbing realities. But one day, Kevin was deeply affected when he finally saw Molly again. In her current world, she was a single mother working as a nurse. Kevin, crying, tried to touch the screen, but the broadcast suddenly cut off, forcing him to step back and respect the boundary between himself and the screen. His time quickly ran out, so he rushed to Russo, hoping to see more, but the schedule was fully booked. Russo told him to come back in a few days, and they both headed home. On the way, Kevin saw a large crowd gathered on a bridge because the police were not allowing anyone to cross to the south. It turned out that the area was planned for demolition, which meant many citizens would lose their homes. Suddenly, a man jumped over the barrier, pushed past the police, and reached the middle of the bridge, where he vanished instantly. It became clear that the man was a transformer. People panicked and started pushing the police, forcing the officers to throw tear gas and open fire to drive everyone away. As people ran in all directions, Kevin was almost shot, but Gabriel pulled him away at the last second. The two of them hid inside an old factory, where Gabriel told Kevin that God was testing them. Later, Kevin went to the supermarket. While waiting in line, he noticed a child walking away from his mother and immediately followed him. But as he turned between the aisles, the child disappeared. This triggered painful memories of the day Kevin and Molly lost their son in a supermarket. Thankfully, the boy reappeared next to his mother, but Kevin could not stop himself from scolding her for not noticing that her child had wandered off. Everyone in the supermarket stared at him as if he were crazy, so Kevin panicked and ran out. As he ran through the streets, Kevin once again remembered the moment he lost his son. He and Molly had stopped for just a few seconds to greet their friends, and that was enough for their child to disappear. They searched the entire building but found nothing. Later, the police informed the couple that they had found the child's bag, but not the child himself, and he was presumed dead. After that, Kevin and Molly argued constantly. Molly drank heavily, while Kevin attended support group meetings. One day, Kevin tried to comfort Molly by giving her a necklace engraved with the words, "He is alive," as a symbol of hope. But Molly saw it as something terrible. She wanted Kevin to grieve with her, accept the loss, and move on, while Kevin still believed there was a chance their son was alive. The argument that followed eventually drove them apart. In the present, Kevin was scavenging for leftover alcohol in the trash when he was noticed by his neighbor, Rudgett, who invited him to have dinner with his family. Kevin spent a wonderful evening with them, until Rudgett suddenly revealed that he knew Kevin's real name because he had heard Gabriel say it. He also admitted that he knew Kevin had been secretly distributing Bible verses, and he invited him over to thank him. Rudgett asked his daughters to sing a beautiful song, and Kevin was deeply moved, feeling that hope still existed. He was so overwhelmed that he cried. When Rudgett asked Kevin to teach the girls, Kevin immediately agreed. That night, Kevin told many stories from the Bible, as much as he could remember. After he finished, Rudgett noticed that Kevin had a tattoo. Kevin explained that it symbolized an empty tomb. It turned out to be the same design as Molly's necklace. At that moment, sirens began blaring throughout the city, and people rushed into hiding. Kevin and Rudget's family watched the emergency broadcast on television, which announced that the benefactor had returned. The mayor reminded citizens that if the benefactor required anything from them, they must cooperate, or the punishment would be death. Some time later, Kevin returned to the theater and continued watching Molly across different realities, until he finally found one version of her wearing the necklace, meaning she was the one transformed from his original world. Excited, Kevin ran to the control room to celebrate and demanded the access code for that world. When Russo told him he could not give it to him, Kevin became angry. Russo immediately scolded him and explained that the signal was lost when Kevin locked himself into the chair, making it impossible to retrieve the code. Kevin wanted to try again, but Russo refused, explaining that even if they managed to find the same Molly again, and that could take many hours, the code would be useless unless Kevin had his special bracelet, also known as the Transformer. Frustrated and desperate, Kevin ran until he found Gabriel and pulled him into an alley to talk. Kevin asked Gabriel to get him a weapon so he could go after the benefactor, but Gabriel reminded him that weapons were illegal and that trying to kill the devil was madness. When Kevin handed Gabriel an envelope filled with more Bible stories, he told him these would be the last ones. Gabriel agreed, then offered Kevin his own weapon. The next day, Kevin tried to get close to the area where the benefactor was. He was at a restaurant, carrying out the recruitment of another jumper. The police had set up roadblocks in the streets, yet people gathered everywhere just to see the benefactor, so much so that some of them started fighting each other to get the closest spots. The police were distracted by these clashes. Kevin took advantage of the chaos and slipped into the restaurant, trying to capture the benefactor. But to his shock, he suddenly found himself inside a hotel room instead of the restaurant. Confused, Kevin stepped back out and saw the restaurant entrance again, where he noticed the benefactor dining with another version of himself. That's when he realized the door was actually a teleportation trap. At that moment, the police opened fire, and Kevin was shot in the arm. He ran back inside to hide. Every time he looked outside, the police were waiting for him. Overcome with despair, Kevin threw his weapon away and began smashing everything in the room while screaming, calling out to God and saying he was being tested far too harshly. When he finally dropped to his knees to pray, the benefactor appeared inside the room, took the weapon, and then brought Gabriel in as well. Gabriel immediately denied knowing Kevin at all. The benefactor didn't react fast enough. When the officers opened fire from outside, Gabriel was killed as well. As Gabriel's body fell, Kevin noticed a jumper device in his hand and realized that Gabriel had been a jumper all along. Quietly, Kevin moved around the bed, stole the device, and pressed several buttons at random to escape. He appeared in the middle of a desert, and noticed the jumper wasn't working properly. In frustration, he smashed it until it transported him again, this time into another world, where he fell into the middle of a lake. After swimming to shore, he activated the jumper once more and appeared in a random room containing supplies he used to treat his wounds. Looking around, Kevin discovered he was inside a mental institution, and Tina from his world was there. The benefactor had sent her to this reality, one she didn't belong to, so she was considered insane and locked away with the other patients. Kevin tried to reach her, but he ran into Gabriel again, who began chasing him and firing shots. Multiple versions of Gabriel appeared in the hallways thanks to his jumper abilities, but Kevin managed to evade them all and hid in one of the rooms. Later, Kevin waited until Tina was alone and approached her. At first, she spoke incoherently, but once she finally recognized him, she was shocked. She asked about her family and begged him to take her back to them. Guards immediately grabbed her, but they were suddenly killed by two versions of Gabriel, who then moved toward Kevin. Just in time, Kevin activated the jumper and disappeared. This time, he arrived in a reality where he lived alongside the benefactor and had agreed to work with him. Kevin was living in luxury, and the benefactor would bring him any woman he pointed at. The original Kevin tried to sneak into this reality, but the other version of Kevin discovered him, pointed a gun at him, and slammed him against the ceiling to force him to talk. The women fled in fear. The original Kevin revealed the tattoos symbolizing his jumper, enraging the other Kevin, who opened fire in an attempt to take it from him. At that moment, the original Kevin managed to jump again, back to the hopeless world. Upon returning, Kevin found that the police had completely taken control of the area. Fortunately, Rudgett was still alive. Before being taken away by the ambulance, he handed his wife a drawing resembling Kevin's tattoo, along with the word, "Hope." At that moment, a woman spotted Kevin and alerted the police, who immediately began chasing him. Kevin ran at full speed until he reached the theater. He grabbed the remote control and started searching for Molly. A miracle happened. He found her on the very first attempt, and Russo gave him the coordinates of her world. The police stormed the building, but Kevin used the jumper and vanished just in time. In another reality, Kevin found Molly, but she wanted nothing to do with him. Kevin tried to explain that he had never abandoned her and that he had changed, but it wasn't enough. Molly had moved on with her life and only kept the necklace as a memory. Suddenly, someone grabbed Kevin by the shoulder. It was the benefactor, who sent him back to the theater. Another version of Gabriel appeared and dropped his jumper. The benefactor then brought Tina in and admitted that he was the one who had turned Kevin's son into a jumper. Enraged, Kevin tried to attack him, but the police restrained him immediately. The benefactor made one final offer. Kevin had to choose, either return to Molly forever, or go back to just that single night. Kevin hesitated. At that moment, Russo was shocked to finally find his cat after a long search. That was the sign of hope Kevin had been waiting for from God. He chose to return Tina to her family, and she was reunited with her loved ones. The benefactor tried to use Gabriel's weapon to throw Kevin away, but at that exact moment, a miracle occurred as a reward for Kevin's choice. He was sent to the reality where Molly lived as a single mother working as a nurse. Kevin's wounds were healed, but his bracelet was gone. Kevin approached this version of Molly at a bar the same way they first met, and they quickly connected. They began dating, and Kevin started a new life there, saying that this wasn't just another world, it was his home. In the end, he married this version of Molly, became a father to her daughter, and had another child with her. Kevin was incredibly happy with his new family, believing that God had rewarded him with twice what he had lost. And here, our movie comes to an end. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.